Governor Abdulrazaq visited Kwara in Kaiama local government area following a deadly terrorist attack that claimed at least 75 lives and destroyed property. He sympathized with victims and community leaders, ordered immediate humanitarian assistance, and announced that President Bola Tinubu has approved the deployment of additional troops under Operation Savannah Shield to restore security in the area. Now, of course, joining me for this conversation, I have a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Raymond Nkanibe, right here with me. Raymond, it's good to have you on the show.
Same here.
Thank you for turning up. You're coming up in your traditional attire. Are you coming from a chieftaincy coronation?
Actually, I'm coming out from a wedding.
All right, you're welcome. Of course, I have Kayode Ladini right here, always set and ready for the team. Executive Editor, TVC News. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. Now, Kayode, let me start with you. With the visit of Abdulrahman to the communities with the current situation that just befell that area, how do you think this visit would promote any kind of change with what we're expecting after such dastardly act? Because it appears there is a pattern. When there's a problem, there's always a visit, and it keeps the recurring decimal all the time. So how do you think this is going to be different in any way?
So, putting it rightly, it will be more disastrous if the governor never visited as we speak.
Right.
I'm sure three of us were part of those people that will say that was quite irresponsible of a governor of a state not to visit the victims and the survivors, so to say, and to also commiserate and also assure the people. But the import of that assurance is more with the federal government as we speak, because when it has to do with the military and everything, the governor will be counting massively on the federal government intervention.
True.
So whatever he has said, let's take it that he's speaking for the federal government, because up to then we saw him also, visited the president. The vice president has also visited, which is also to let you know that, because there's a big difference when the people who are in government visit victims. You recall what happened in Benue State.
Yes.
Not until the president visited Benue, we didn't get that arrest. You saw the body language of the president when he said, Mr. IG, arrest should have been made. And we saw arrests being made. You might call it eye service, whatever name you want to call it, but there is a high level of import when people who are in government, the state actors, visit a scene of an incident. Yes, Nigerians are hungry. Nobody wants to hear all those things. We want to see action, because what happened that day was a terrible experience. Sure. And it points to the fact that we need to make up our mind whether we want to really fight this terrorism to ground zero. Because if people can operate for 8 hours or thereabout, because for 2 occasions, we understand that the helicopters were hovering, trying to see. But what they saw, obviously, was more than what they could tackle. So that tells you that enough is enough. We must prioritize the lives of Nigerians and take more drastic action. Good, you may not have security on all the streets, but the response time should be more definitive. Because these guys must have come, of course, they must have come in large number on their bikes. The roads are bad. It's not a place where you can quickly mobilize, even, what do you call it now, trucks to go and attack, to go and resist them. There must be a more drastic steps. I'm not a security expert, but I feel that the governor's visit is not out of place. It is expected, it is necessary. In fact, I watched it even till 11 p.m. Our reporter was telling us that they are still at the scene. I was a bit scared that I hope these guys are still not around. I was concerned about our reporter and our cameraman, but a good number of journalists were also with him because they couldn't have gone without that security cover that the governor must have taken there. So by and large, it's not out of place. What he said is not out of place. But beyond what he says, the federal government needs to come to rescue to forestall possible attack again.
Thank you very much for that elaborate explanation. Now, Raymond, very quickly, how can community leaders and traditional institutions be integrated into local security efforts? Because it looks as though these communities are always at the receiving end and they're always left, vulnerable whenever these attacks happen. There's just no intervention from anywhere and they're exposed to it to a very terrible degree.
Oh, thank you very much. I actually think at the level of the community being involved in the security of their localities,
Right.
that practice has actually been in place for the entire history of armed banditry and insurgency in the country. You know, I schooled at Maiduguri at the peak of the insurgency, and then the whole idea of what do they call them now?
Vigilantes.
Vigilante groups.
Right.
Those structures have always been in place to provide, but they provide more of support to the armed forces, the troops who are more trained to, you know, meet the kind of firepower that these people can actually come with at times. So the level of these attacks, these VGs, they can't source intelligence. Their responses is going to be limited by way of maybe just providing that semblance of security to members of the community. But in terms of the actual work of intelligence gathering, like in this case where we heard that there was actually prior notice that these guys were going to attack and nothing happened. You don't expect the local vigilantes to assist you with that. Their response, whether I like it or not, is going to be
minimal,
significantly curtailed. So at the end of the day, the boxing stops at the primary, the precincts of the law enforcement agencies. They have to ramp up their intelligence gathering methods and also try to be more proactive than being reactive, as this experience and other experiences in the past have always shown.
Thank you very much. Now, Kaude, if it is true that there was a prior notice that this attack was going to happen, now we keep hearing attacks after breakdown of intelligence with security operatives, leaving points of duty before terrorists invade. It's becoming a pattern. Now, who should be in the firing line for this mishap all the time? Because we hear security operatives are on the ground. The moment they leave, these guys would attack, and they would do it for hours, unending, carry out whatever they want to carry out, and operate extensively. Who should be in the firing line after this pattern keeps coming up?
So I will speak as a journalist,
right,
not as a security expert.
Okay.
You know, as a journalist, this intelligence, at what level was it escalated? Are we sure that this intelligence was available as reported? Because we get to hear that there was an intelligence when this attack had been carried out. So if we can establish that, I'm talking as a journalist now, if we can establish that, there are intels, you know, leaking here and there, and if this is escalated to the GOC in that particular area, that GOC should be held responsible, because intelligence should, even we as laymen, we know that when these attacks are carried out in those remote areas, we know the pattern. They come in motorcycles, they come in their huge number. So why don't you become offensive? Why don't you go to where they are hiding? Because one thing I know, this is not talking from ignorance, one thing I know about our security agents are that they are so super intelligent, and they know where these guys are hiding. They might just tell you that, okay, maybe they have some captives there, they don't want too many casualties. But that should give them that sense to become offensive rather than even being reactionary, which is the worst situation. Because if you are just waiting to defend, that also
damage will have been done.
Do you understand? So I believe that they know what to do. So that political will should be extended, especially to this Kwara, Kogi. They are becoming theater of
targeted
attacks.
areas.
You understand? So, because I know the military can't just be everywhere at every time, you know, to pattern of war, you don't just release all your army to all the nooks and crannies. There are areas that you should have them more. So the president has deployed, that's fine. But beyond that, let us work with intels. Let us work with intels to prevent it, because we are hearing that there was an attack in Oyo State. That's a sign that they've come home. They've come close to the southwest. What are we doing? What's the level of conversation with local authorities? What kind of information are you getting? Who are the people that have come to your area? Can we make use of NIMC? You know, really now, can we take census? If you don't have an identity, you are a suspect. If you can't trace where you live, you are a suspect. If you don't know your parents, you are a suspect. These are issues that should give us some level of security. Otherwise, we are still going to report another deadly attack.
If I might just quickly add to that.
Quickly,
I think
because of time.
at the root of all of this is a failure of the local government system in this country.
Okay.
If you had a functional local government administration in place,
You should know the people.
all the structures, they have the structures to help to provide the level of security at the local community level. But because of the collapse of the local government system, security has been significantly reduced at that level of government.
Well, let's hope it's intensified now that the president has been emphasizing on local government autonomy and money is being released to local governments. Now, hopefully, in the coming months, we begin to see, some kind of a step up with the activities over there, right? We'll go on a quick break.